Before we start off today's video, if you guys would like to join the Discord server, link will be in the description below and in that pinned comment. Now, if it's been more than 7 days, please use the latest video, as that's the one where the links will be working, as they only last 7 days. And of course, I'd love to have you on the server as well as the channel, so make sure to subscribe with that bell on so you do not miss anything such as videos, shorts and my community posts, and make sure to like the videos as well. But yeah, let's get into today's video. What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are here with the Mk5 Renault Clio. Now this is a small hatchback and it rivals cars such as the Corsa, Fiesta, 208, Polo, Seat Ibiza, Skoda Fabia, etc. Now this is another French alternative to say the Peugeot 208 and the older Citroen C3, not the new one which is becoming some sort of crossover. I don't really know what it is, but forget that. It's an alternative to that. And well, something that I would like to note is that it does look somewhat, not completely, somewhat similar to the Mk4 Clio. So the shape of the body looks similar and the front and back, they're not like completely the same, but they look like they took design cues from that car and added it onto this one and then just changed it a little bit. But I'm not saying I have a problem with that, I'm just saying. Now let's see how this car fares, and even though it does look very similar, that doesn't mean it is similar. So let's get into the review and see how this car fares. So when it comes to the exterior looks of this car, well, the pre-facelift, I'm sort of seeing Scenic vibes, Renault Scenic. And it's not bad on this car. I think it absolutely works fine. I mean, it's not ugly for sure. I mean, the lights, I do like how they come down, like, I don't really know what it is, like an L, J, depending on which side you look at. I think that's a nice LED touch. And the overall grille design, that works fine, although I'm not sure about where the Renault badge is, that grille there. I'm not saying it's horrible, it's just a split for me, to be honest. Now the facelift of the Renault Clio looks completely different, completely. My arms may have just been cut off by the blue screen, great. Now there's something to do with Peugeot, the design of the 208, you move to Renault or Renault to Peugeot, I don't know what it is really. If you know, please let me know in the comments below, because I really don't know. Now as a result, the front of the facelifted 208 and the front of the facelifted Renault Clio do look somewhat similar, because it's from the same designer. And of course you got the new Renault badge as well. Now this is like a 3D effect with the grille design, and I think that is absolutely cool. It's absolutely awesome, and it hasn't got that fangs or that LJ that comes down at the bottom anymore. It's replaced with the same sort of design, just different slightly. I don't know what it is, but it works and I really like it. It looks cool, sporty, and I wouldn't say luxurious, but premium compared to the previous pre-facelift of this car. Now the side profile, that definitely looks somewhat similar to the Mk4 Clio. I mean, it's not an ugly car, because the Mk4 wasn't exactly ugly either, and this isn't as a result. But you know, I mean, there's not really much to say besides this one thing. The rear door handles are at the top by the window, and you have to think it's like a push or pull effect. I haven't actually tried it myself, but as a result, it kind of gives a 3-door effect. When you look at the side of the cars, there's no door handle on the actual door itself. Now, for some people, they don't mind, it won't matter to them. But for me and some other people, they might not like it as where it is, because it's higher up and they're not used to it, and you have to open it in a slightly different way than you would with just a traditional door handle. So it's really personal preference with that. I personally don't like it, but you know, someone may not care. But because some people don't like it, you know, it's not the best thing, to be honest with you. The rear of the pre-facelift, well, I think it works perfectly fine. I do like the light design, I think they work really well, and the rest of it is just a normal car really, to be honest. Now the rear window does look very tiny indeed, along with that rear wiper. So visibility might not be the best that you're hoping for, just warning you now. However, The facelift, well, of course, you've got the new Renault logo, which looks sick, I might add, compared to the old one. And the rear lights look completely different as well. Not completely got the same shape, but the actual like design within them and the lights, that is completely different, and it looks super cool. I definitely like that a lot. When it comes to the interior of this car, well, there's 3 points to make, so let's start the first one. This is the overall look of the Mk5 Renault Clio, and it is completely different to the old one. For example, the gauges were completely different in the older Mark IV, and so was the overall design. It was like a tiny screen, and then you got black bezels with some buttons on the side. This one has a humongous portrait tablet sort of style, sort of like an iPad or Samsung Galaxy tablet or whatever you want to call it. Now, cars are turning towards this. You know, if you look at the Volvos and the London taxis, which technically use some Volvo stuff because they're owned by Geely, and then Subaru have also started using portrait design for the infotainment screen. It's just something to get used to, really, because we're familiar with just landscape rectangles. And then you got actual buttons to adjust the climate and all that, and physical buttons everywhere as well. So that is definitely something cool to note. Well, I wouldn't say cool, something good to note. Now, if you got a lower spec, then this is the type of screen you get. It's not as big, and you got humongous bezels by the looks of it, but you do have a screen there anyway. And if you go for the ultra basic one, then you get this, which is basically some sort of like stereo sort of thing that you find in all the 2007 car, for example. Now, if you do get the basic car, I do believe it has analog dials instead of digital, so just keep that in mind. When it comes to the performance of this car, there are multiple engines and multiple power outputs. So there's a 1.5 diesel with 2 power outputs, there's a 1.3 turbo petrol, there's a naturally aspirated 1 litre with 2 power outputs, and there is a 1 litre turbo with 2 power outputs as well, and then there's this hybrid as well. Now, I believe there's an LPG as well, something similar to that. However, as I usually do with these reviews, if a car has multiple engines and power outputs with different, like petrol, diesel, hybrid, plug-in, whatever, I'll choose one from each and just look at the specs of those. So, I have chosen for the petrol, the 1 litre inline 3-cylinder naturally aspirated one. This has 70 horsepower and 70 pound-feet of torque, so 70 on the dot each time. Brilliant. It is front-wheel drive, of course, and it weighs 1,148 kilograms. Gearbox is your traditional 5-speed manual gearbox for a car with this engine and power output, really. 0 to 60 is, give or take, nearly 16 seconds, which isn't great if you're the person who likes to put your foot down and go on the motorway, but then again, you know, if you get this engine, you clearly don't do high-speed driving. And top speed is 100 miles an hour, so again, not really a high-speed car. When it comes to the diesel, I chose the 83 horsepower version of the 1.5 litre 4-cylinder. It has 162 pound-feet of torque, of course, because it's a diesel and it produces more torque. Front wheel drive once again, and it weighs a bit heavier at 1,277 kilograms. It has a 6-speed manual gearbox, so another gear and a bit more economical as a result. 0 to 60 is 14.2 seconds, which again isn't rapid, but you know, this diesel isn't about performance, it's about economy. You know, that's what diesel mainly is. Unless you buy a Skoda Fabia VRS Mark 1 or a V12 Audi Q7 TDI, something, or a V10 Touareg diesel, whatever. And the top speed is 110 miles an hour, so somewhat better than the petrol, so a bit more of a high-speed cruiser than the underpowered petrol. At least it's not the 65 horsepower version. That would be even worse for the petrol. And then for the hybrid, now something to note is that the pre-facelift and the facelift had different 2 power outputs for this hybrid system. So I've gone for the pre-facelift one, which will have different specs compared to the facelifted one. Like, it has 5 more horsepower, I believe, and it's a bit quicker to 60. But that's all you really need to know about it. Nothing else is much more important than that, really. So it has a 1.6 litre inline 4-cylinder with that electric motor, making it a hybrid. It has 138 horsepower and 106 pound-feet of torque. It is front-wheel drive as usual. it is a bit heavier than the others because obviously of that motor and the batteries at 1,323 kilograms, and it comes with a 6-speed automatic gearbox, so no CVT for that one, which is good. 0 to 60 is 9.6 seconds, which is decent enough for this kind of car really, and top speed is 112 miles an hour. So I guess you can call it somewhat of a motorway cruiser if you like. You know, it's got a bit more power and it's got an electric motor which gives you more oomph, especially off the line. When it comes to practicality, well, the boot was 391 litres big, non-hybrid by the way, and that is massive. That is big hatchback territory, like the Golf, that sort of size. That's ridiculously good. I mean, that's absolutely amazing, although it is quite deep, and so if you've got heavy things that might not be the best thing because you've got a big boot lid. However, if you did get the hybrid, it was reduced to 301 litres, which was just average for that kind of car really, and to be honest, average is better than poor. But yeah, this boot was absolutely excellent, especially in the non-hybrid version. You didn't need to buy a Focus, hallelujah! But the rear seats, they weren't so great. Now obviously this is not a big car, it's a small hatchback, so space in the back is going to be limited anyhow. However, if you were getting on for 6 foot, you know, your head would start to touch the ceiling and it would be a bit uncomfortable. And depending on how the front passenger and driver had their seat, knee room could also be a bit of a problem. However, if they were shorter like me, then they wouldn't really have much of a problem. It's just if you've got long legs, or depending on how you sit, or if the front people are tall, it's just really depending on circumstances. So it's not the greatest, but it is to be expected from this kind of car, unless it's some, I don't know what small hatchback has large hatchback room. When it comes to the handling and comfort, I just hurt my nail on that one. Yeah. So, how do I put this? It rode okay. I've seen reviews that say the ride comfort is good and some that say it's mediocre and some say it's not the best. So I'm gonna go with the middle. So it could hold its own when it comes to comforting the passengers. However, it would be a bit rough at times, especially at lower speeds. Now the actual handling itself, well, it held its own in the corner. The steering didn't have the most feedback in the world, but then again, this is not a car that's supposed to have the most feedback in the world, so that's to be expected really. And there wasn't too much body lean in the corners as well, so that was also good for, you know, passengers feeling sick because of the semicircular canals. Bet you didn't know that, haha, I'm a doctor of YouTube. But yeah, it held its own in the corners and it just about did okay with comforting the passengers. Hopefully they won't be too bad on that one. Is there anything else worth noting? Well, not that I can think of. I don't know anything. Besides the fact that if you want another Clio, there's the Dacia Sandero. Good news, it's cheaper as well. So the verdict with the pros are, the boot is absolutely humongous, especially in non-hybrid form. Exterior looks really good, the interior looks really good. It handles fine for your average person, and there's multiple engines to choose from and power outputs, which is great. And however, the cons are the door handles. Again, that's just personal preference. Some people don't like it, some people are fine with it. The ride can be somewhat rough at lower speeds, and space in the back is not the best, especially if you're 6 foot or depending on circumstances. However, I would not fault this car at all. I do think it's a good car. Obviously it has its cons, but every car has its cons. I mean, everything in this world has its cons. But, you know, still a good car, and I'd happily recommend it to someone. Just not the basic 65 or 75 horsepower one, even for town driving. I mean, that's a bit gutless, even for town. But, you know, it's all personal preference, it's up to you. I have no say in whatever you want to drive. I just review the damn thing. But if you would like me to review a car, then you can let me know in the comments below, and if there's enough information online, I can happily review it for you. And something I would like to note is, it's a Sunday today, and the Lexus review came out on last Thursday, so that's what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that's 4 days. and it's about 30 something views, which isn't bad. Hopefully it gets more. I wonder what it will get by then, and I hope this review does well as well, and I hope my reviews start to pick up again. But yeah, I will see you guys in next week's video. Peace.